Hi, how's it going? My name is Kory Lambert. I'm 30 years old, originally from the Bay Area, California, currently down here in Los Angeles. I am a scientific scuba diver, scuba instructor, as well as the founder and CEO of the Aquatic Futures Foundation. So, Aquatic Futures Foundation was founded in February 2024. I initially got the idea when I was in my scientific dive training in my undergrad up at Humboldt State. When I was scuba diving, I was the only Black person in my class, and I realized the necessity for diversity in aquatic as well as marine science spaces. It's my true belief that adding more voices to science is going to allow us to expand science and answer some of these questions that long haven't been able to be answered. It's my firm theory that since the Middle Passage, African Americans who were enslaved and brought to America, then creating blackness as well as creating whiteness. There's been a direct separation to Africans from water because it's essential to keeping the system running that Black people were trapped here in the United States, in America. And so, first of all, the trauma of the Middle Passage and what that must look like, what was experienced on that, and the lives that were lost in that, right? That's like the initial separation from water. Then, once getting to the Americas, once we realized that Africans, people in the Middle East, people in India, people in Polynesia, people in South America had been sailing for a much longer time. So now it looks like, and I think from the history that I've seen, the Africans who were enslaved and brought to America knew how to sail, knew how to use waterways, knew how to fish. And what does that bring? That brings freedom. So now you're in Florida, now you're in the Caribbean, now you're in New York or North Carolina, South Carolina, and you know how to fish, you know how to build boats, and you know how to navigate with the stars back home. You can't go near the water. And so it started in slavery. Then we had slavery end. We had the 13th Amendment, which kind of recreated slavery in a lot of these ways and recreated these laws, which then led to the Jim Crow. And so in Jim Crow, we then see the policing of swimming pools, Black people not being allowed to be in swimming pools. Then when we had desegregation, the pools were still segregated. Black people had bleach poured on them, things thrown at them in pools. They were kicked out of beaches. Cars drove over them at beaches. We had the Ebony Beach Club here in Southern California that was burnt down a day before it opened. So there's been an intentional separation from Black people in America away from water since the inception of this country, due to it being a foundational necessity that Black people were trapped here in America. And so through Aquatic Futures Foundation, we are able to unseed some of that generational trauma from a deeper historical and societal lens, but then also on a more personal spiritual level as well, right? And so a lot of people that are like, hey, I don't like to swim or I don't like the water, they don't have the full context of what I just broke down. And so that's not how everybody relates to it. But what it looks like in modern day is you and your whole family have grew up in LA in a neighborhood that doesn't have access to swimming pools. You don't have a pool in your backyard. You don't have a friend who has a pool in their backyard, and you've grown up now for 5 generations in Los Angeles and no one in your family has ever swam. So now your family doesn't swim. But there's so much more that's been woven into that. So, each time we can get someone to the ocean, each time we can get a new person to dip their head underwater, each time we can get a new person to try on some scuba gear and do something they didn't think they would do, I think it's actively dismantling these concepts and all of this work that the system has done to create this image. And through AFF, with just starting this year, we've already done a couple ocean comfort courses. We did a ocean comfort course where we teamed up with Black Surfers Collective and we brought people out to surf as well as do some breath work and learn about riptides and safety in the water. I've seen a lot of those people going surfing and getting in the water recently. Other than the ocean comfort course, we did an open water scuba course where we taught an initial group of people how to scuba dive, and we did some discover scuba dives, and people have been really excited. And so I think we've seen a lot of spiritual growth and personal growth, and I think that's like one of my favorite things. Like in the students, they come to learn how to scuba dive and then they come out with like a whole new perspective on life and like a whole new added sense of personality that they've gained from pushing themselves through doing something like scuba diving. And a lot of the students that I've got to work with really go on and do these impactful things. Yeah, even in a year with the couple cohorts we've had, it's already been some pretty big impacts. And so now I'm excited for the future and what next year has. And we have a couple more classes this year to knock out as well. So I think I'll know the mission's complete when there's widespread representation to where it's impossible for false narratives to exist. And I think that's why I'm so dedicated to creating photos, creating imagery, creating art, doing things like this, being a part of any project that is widening the narrative and the lens, so that we create so much content, so much media, and we implant it in culture and history so much that there's no room for falseness to exist any longer.